Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to our today's special session that is called Academia 5.0. And I hope we can enter a very good discussion because the idea for Academia for 5.0 was just to look at the transformation processes that we are seeing in industry and in society, but what about higher education institutions? So let me first introduce you to you, the panelists of today. Let me start from there. Björn Weser, he is from University of Hohenheim and Gießen, University of Gießen, and he is a representative of the new HEIs Center, SDG Nexus. I would like to welcome, I will come back to you because a special guest, Professor Stamm. He is from University of Dresden, and he is the representative and chairman of the ABCD Center, the Climate Change Center here in Asia. And I would like also to welcome Sharif Azab from DAD. He is our contact person at DAD and responsible for the HEIs centers. I would also like to introduce Daniela Gomez. She is now from University of Hohenheim, and she is the representative of the HEIs Center FSC, Water Security Center. And okay, of course, Lars Ribbe, good friend from Cologne. He is also a representative of an HEIs Center at TH Köln. It is the CNRD in Cologne. And special guest of today, I'm very happy that you have accepted to come here today. Professor Dieter Trau, he is working at the AIT here in Bangkok, and he is the Dean of the School of Engineering and Technology, and you're also the Director of the Entrepreneurship Center. Thank you very much to all of you, and as you can see here, we have two parts of our today's session. The first part, as you can see here, is about the presentation of the centers and DAD. They will give us a very, very quick report about key findings over the last 10 years. But in case of SDG centers, it will be about
شلون قبل كانت هجوم قوات البحثية باليوم حملوا على حدودنا. وبهاي الصورة صارت يضا. مثلا عندنا كثر ناس.
What is that? Do I have to stop?
قرصتهم عقارب. حياية.
Oh, problem solved? Okay, let me repeat. We have two parts. First, where we'll start with is the presentation of the centers and the presentation from DAD. They shall report or will report about key findings over the last 10 years. In the case of SDG Nexus, it will be about the past 1 or 2 years. And as far as Professor Stamm is concerned, also the experiences of the first year or 2 years of the project ABCD Center. And of course, then the report from DAD. You have also an overview of, because you accompanied us over the last, let's say, 5-7 years, and you can also give us some insight of the aspects, future DAD strategy, and so that after your presentation we will enter into part, we will go to part 2. That is the panel discussion about Academia 5.0. The speakers will be also the panelists, including Professor Trau, and we will speak about the Academia 5.0. What is it? What can be understood about Academia 5.0, and how we can make changes in higher education institutions as far as the future is concerned in order to cope with these transformation processes that we are seeing in industry and technology and in society. How higher education institutions have to react, how do they have to change their education. So far so good. We are very time constrained, so if I push always a little bit, forgive me, we have to keep the time. Anyway, so it's not working. Okay. So let me first start with the Exceed Center in Braunschweig, because I will continue, put my name on the first here, because I need to moderate the other presentations. Just a quick view on the International Network of Sustainable Water Management. As you can see here, we are working in the area of 4 regions worldwide. We have 50 higher education institutions in our network, where we work together over the last, let's say, 10 years. And here you can see the different regions and the single university. I don't want to get into details this because of time constraints, only that you see what is the network about. What I want to focus on is our key findings. Very briefly, we worked in the area of joint research, networking, and teaching and education. The idea was to start the communication and the networking with joint research. So we gave some incentives to our partners that we jointly looked at possibilities to create or to write project proposals. And the idea was, the idea of these proposals, the content and what kind of problems we were focusing on, that we also wanted to integrate this into some ideas of teaching. That means that we started to collect all master courses around within our network. We overlapped them, and we looked at some similarities but also to gaps, and we tried to integrate new findings because of these project joint research, where we started to harmonize a little bit these curricula in master education, and so that we could start with an exchange. And this was mainly done on the level of elective courses, not so much in mandatory courses, and in that respect we tried to find approaches to curriculum design and learning progression. And there also we tried to, as you can see here, to shift from static linear to learning progresses model on nonlinear dynamic processes. And the leading question was, with this task, what knowledge, skills, and attitudes and values do today's students need to navigate and meet the challenges of tomorrow's world? So that was the basic background and the basic question we raised in this case when we talked about these curricula. And we had exchanges in that area where we did some teaching, where colleagues came to Braunschweig, or in south-south direction colleagues went for 2 weeks and taught there. And we also harmonized, as I said, these courses where students had the opportunity and get credited for that when they went from one university to another university to listen to these courses. And that was, in our view, a good start, and also the question how to make this network sustainable, to work together on this level. Okay, this is my part, and I would like now to ask Björn Weser to give his speech about SDG Nexus, key findings and lessons learned of the Exceed. So we are now in part 1.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect, yeah, thank you, Andreas. I will just give you a short overview in the next 5 minutes about the goals and activities of our network, because we just started 2020. And I will also give you some insights why we actually set these goals and why we believe they are important, of course, particularly against the background of this session, so Academia 5.0. It's confusing with two different slides here. So actually started in 2020 in 5 countries in Latin America and Central Asia. We as the SDG Nexus network really strongly believe that actions lead to a change. And with this in mind, we also actually started the conceptualization phase of the project, and we tried to include from the very beginning some new ways of thinking and teaching and research and society interactions. And for this, we're bringing together different stakeholders of universities in the global north and south. And with them, we're working together collaboratively to solve some of these transformation processes we are going to talk about in the next hour. The network itself is structured along 3 main pillars. First is a research framework where we increase sustainability by establishing a common research framework along all our partners. I think this is a very important part. This is also one of the biggest parts we're doing. We're quite research-based, actually, from our activities. We do a lot of activities in this direction. And the second part is the networking activities, where we strengthen the expertise and development cooperation between all our partners. And actually, I think this is a very important part because learning from each other is actually a good way to establish some more robust processes along all of our partners. And this also, of course, includes some outreach activities because it should not only stay in academia, but we are, of course, trying to reach the full society with what we are doing. And that's also why we actually have some extramural partners included in the project, so that's more flexible. And the third part, this is actually a part where we'll also spend a bit more time in this 5 minutes presentation, is the supporting of the next generation of scientists, which we call the agents of change. And this is because actually this kind of visionary thinkers, what we think is really required to ensure long-term change and education, and also the possibility for personal development on a local and personal level is a very important factor to reach this. And I will, in the next slide, talk a bit more about this. And overall, I mean, this heterogeneous nature of our network is something which we believe makes the results we are producing more robust than just looking at single parts. And also what's actually a bit interesting, we have partners from Central Asia and Latin America, which are 2 regions which are arguably not very similar. But of course, development challenges they discover are quite similar, and we are trying to foster some kind of policy exchange between these countries. This is also something we are already observing, which is happening, and this is, of course, brings completely new opportunities to tackle some of these problems. And yeah, as I said before, education is really one of the key methods to reach this kind of sustainable transformations. And we're doing a lot of these in this regard. We have PhD programs, we have a lot of postdocs coming from the southern partners to Germany and the other way around. We have seminar series, there's quite a bit of activities here, but one thing I wanted to introduce to you here today is a new master degree program, Sustainable Transition, which we developed in Gießen, and which is actually the first of its kind based at the German university. What's special about this program, it's completely online, so the remote participation is possible. And this, of course, makes it accessible for people that might otherwise not be able to, or might be excluded from this type of studying, for example, for financial or personal constraints. And this is really one point where we can bring education to all parts of the world. And I will just end this presentation to stay in time with a short 1-minute video, which actually promotes the program, but also fits nicely and reflects nicely what we're going to discuss here. So maybe we can just start. Thanks.
In a world that is constantly changing, what will be your role? The passenger or the driver? And in a world in need of urgent change towards more sustainability, what will be your role? The spectator or the doer? Do you want to play an active part in moving towards a more sustainable society? Do you want to study from anywhere in the world at one of the oldest universities in Germany? Do you want to put sustainability goals into practice? Join us and become part of the solution by studying the International Master's Degree Programme, Sustainable Transition, at Justus Liebig University Gießen, completely online.
Yeah, I think everything else we can then discuss later because otherwise it takes too long. So thanks. Who's next?
Okay, thank you.
Professor Stamm.
Next presenter will be Daniela Gomez from University of Hohenheim.
Thank you, Andreas. I'll stand up, otherwise I cannot see the presentation. Thank you. The Food Security Center has been part of the EXIT program since 2010. That makes now 13 years. And within this EXIT network, we are the competent center on the topic for food security. The other way around. There. And one of our main objectives of our work is to promote interdisciplinary teaching and training of PhD students and postdoc fellows. And over the last 13 years, we have supported over 170 scholars and from 42 different countries, and from which 73 have been long-term PhD students. And we also support knowledge transfer and capacity building through international academic exchanges and through academical activities like this Water Security and Climate Change Conference, or also the World Food Day Colloquium, which is a very well-established yearly event at the University of Hohenheim. I'm not really going to go into detail of our work because of the time. I will rather focus on one of the objectives of this session, which is what we have learned in the last 13 years. And I have to say it's quite difficult to summarize 13 years of experience in 5 minutes. But I was talking to my colleague, one of my colleagues who cannot be here today, and we came to the conclusion that one of the most important things is to be able to build correct partnerships. We think that is crucial to establishing productive networks because networks, they function through people, not through institutions. You can have the highest ranking institutions as your project partners, but we cannot forget that at the end of the day, it's the people within these institutions that make a great team. So we do have to take this time to develop a good relationship, so it becomes more of a partnership instead of a working relationship, and that is we can achieve that through team building activities or continuous cooperation, constant communication, because so when the challenges arise, because they will arise, then both sides will have the trust and flexibility to adapt to these changing situations. And luckily now we do have different platforms and technologies that help us to stay in contact with our partners around the world without the hassles of traveling and the high cost involved in it. But that also brings me to my next point, which is that personal interaction is still not replaceable. That's something we have also learned. And even though that we're very happy that we have this opportunity to connect with the people around the world, still this personal interaction is one of the best assets a project can have in order for it to be successful. And just as a very simple example, I've been talking with my colleagues here every 2 weeks for over a year for the organization of this conference. And I have to say that just having one dinner with them here in Bangkok has brought our relationship to a whole new level that all these meetings didn't do in the last year. And I mean, these meetings were very productive. As I said before, these technologies, they are our allies, and in part, thanks for these technologies, is that we are all here participating in this very successful conference, but still this personal interaction brings a lot more of trust into our partnerships. And I think that is especially important when meeting new potential partners. if you would like to know more about the work of the Food Security Center or also of the Hans Rothenberg Institute of the University of Hohenheim, please feel free to approach me or my colleague Markus Gieser at the end of the session, and we'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. Now let's come to the next presenter. It will be Lars Ribbe, and yeah, your talk.
Yeah, thank you very much, and also thank you, Daniela. I cannot agree more to what you said, and it's a good point of departure to talk about networks. Our networks is called Centers for Natural Resources and Development. Actually, it's a broad topic, of course, natural resources and development. Over the years, we focused on integrated water resource management. What a surprise. That's also one of the children is together with Braunschweig. We initiated in this Exceed network this conference. But also others are working on resource efficient cities, and again others, and this is mixed, working on disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. So that is more or less the topic, but what are we doing? And I think that we all are here basically for the reason of innovation. No? We want to innovate, we want to be innovators, we want to support innovation processes, and as we have emphasized system understanding, system thinking, I would say system innovation. Current state to a future state that is more sustainable. And for that we need knowledge, and we are, as universities, we are knowledge creating and knowledge sharing institutions. So that is our role then, to understand the systems and also to help society to make the shifts towards sustainability. And that was our point of departure when we said, okay, we are a network of universities, and each university is located in a region, because I think it makes more sense to interact with the region where you're located, where you have also contacts, where you have influence, where you also are present in a continuous form. And then we said we create these labs for natural resources and development, our living labs. There is also a poster, you can look at it, that is trying to visualize it. So the living labs are actually the core idea, where we connect each university partner with a region in a very concrete setting. And then we support each other in identifying the challenges of that local system, let's say, the social ecological system, to also look at potential solutions, and again, creating the knowledge to assess the solutions, and then hopefully also to accompany implementation. No? So that is the classical cycle where knowledge and information is needed, and I think universities can provide it. So universities provide education, research, and this third mission, that is actually supporting the communities, supporting society in these processes. Now for education, perhaps also an idea what we are doing, around these three topics we created different teams within our network, global teams that are doing, for example, and this is an example I give, integrated water resource management master programs. So we have, for example, a partner in Vietnam, a partner in Jordan, we have a partner in Costa Rica. Now we have new partners that are preparing the master program on integrated water resource management, and they try to offer that for the region. And we are exchanging teaching material. We also have virtual elements of teaching, but I fully agree to Daniela that I think it should be a mixture at the end, a complete virtualization of education. For us at least, it's not the goal, but we can benefit a lot from digitization and exchanging teaching material. So we have a community of teachers and learners and programs of IWM master programs where we exchange. So that's the idea of networking, and that is then also involving, of course, the students. The students do master thesis research. We also have PhD students that are connected with it. Sometimes they are, again, tutors. So there's a connection between different partners around the world, a connection between the partner and the concrete study region, connecting to the public, private, and also civic actors. And there's a connection of different levels of teachers and learners, because at the end university means exactly that. It's a community of teachers and learners. That's the original meaning of it. So that is what we try to do, and then the network that is our CNRD community is supporting the exchange of knowledge at the international level to support local processes of transformation, and that means climate change adaptation, and actually 13 years of support, and with some of the partners we worked before, with others we will, or with hopefully all of them, we are continue to work in other contexts and other programs. But important is really that we maintain a personal relationship. I think this is people who get to know each other, and that needs time. But it's also then once the trust is built, I think then it's the best and most fruitful basis for achieving great things. And in that sense, I'm looking forward to cooperate not only with the current partners but also with many more, and to interact with the other centers. I think this is a hard work, but I'm sure we will manage to do it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. And I can only repeat that this is the most important point, to have these connections and these personal connections as well, in order to bring something to a higher level. If you have these personal connections, and these are crystallization points actually. I would like now to ask Sherif Azab-Els. He is our partner at AAD, and he accompanied us through the years during the project, not us, but also the other exceed centers. I would like now to ask you to take the floor to report about future DAD strategy.
Thank you very much, Andreas, and for the invitation to be part of the discussions here and to share with you also some insights and experiences from the German Academic Exchange Service with you on how to promote future work of higher education institutions in their cooperation projects with universities from Germany and from the Global South in the context of sustainable development. So in my short presentation, I will go with you through some strategies to mitigate the global challenges in general from the DAAD, and also this discussion which was addressed by Daniela and emphasized by many of the presenters towards the internationalization processes, the mobility, which brings this connection between partners, and in contrast to that, of course, to reduce the mobility for climate protection reasons, because it's important also that we as institutions give an example how we can reduce mobility, how we can mitigate these climate challenges in order to make a kind of an example how we protect the climate. Also, I will go through our contribution from the organization to sustainable development in general, with a special focus on climate protection, what kind of strategies we follow on that. And I just thought maybe it's also relevant to bring some of actual and up-to-date calls for application that might be of interest for you as German or partner universities who are focusing on this topic. So in terms of the strategies in general, so I just thought of two of our main strategies in general to be followed until 2025. And in the context of cooperation with, since we are the implementation agency of internationalization strategies of German university, and German higher education institutions, to strengthen international partnerships with partner universities all over the world, and to build professional networks and contribute to solving global challenges. Also to meet higher education institution strategies and needs in internationalization strategies, but also to meet these kinds of needs in the societies all over the world. And to create also knowledge and transfer this kind of knowledge between higher education systems and between, policymakers all over the world. So, In that, we, of course, had the experience that digitalization is a very important factor. During the pandemic, it has been clear that we need to build a kind of an infrastructure of connection. This is again the discussion about mobility, about meeting physically versus reducing this kind of mobility, which is very, very important for the personal contact for many reasons. For example, the educational issues, the global collaboration, the tolerance and personality development, which we all need also for our graduates and students. We designed this with, in dialogue, in contact with our partners from universities, not only in Germany, but also in the Global South. And I always talk about the Global South because it is our main cooperation regions in terms of sustainability development. And of course, to leave no one behind, because it is very important that we also tackle the challenges within the societies. So we need also universities from the provinces, and we also take care of the vulnerable groups and also try to give support to those who do not have the chance in collaborations internationally. So very shortly, I just want to go through main two pillars actually of sustainability issues at the organization. One of them is our internal governance and institutionalization processes to mitigate global challenges, but also in supporting funding programs and in creating networking between higher education institutions. So we see also that we have here an important contribution to do. How we do that? In sustainable development context, I just picked some numbers we collected only within the year 2020. We know that this is a year which was very difficult for all of us because of the pandemic constraints, but still we could invest only in context of development cooperation to achieve sustainable, to contribute to the achievement of sustainable development goals, 17 million euros. Invested in 138 cooperation projects between higher educations in bilateral or multilateral cooperations with the involvement of more than 500 institutions with partner universities and institutions in more than 60 partner countries. On the, in the context also of individual funding, there has been either they have been like direct funded people from the funding department, individual funding department of the IDA within the networks. So you cut me off if I take too long. So just very shortly, let you for a second have a look at that. I don't go into all these details. I just picked up also some interesting numbers in terms of our contribution to climate protection, which are that we actually gave like 921 scholarships with a clear reference to the environment and the climate protection. 50% of them are women, because we also tackle this kind of vulnerable groups support. Within the year 20 and 21 only, 106 scientific events took place, and 92 alumni events with partnerships of more than 65 partner countries. So, as said, this is only the part of climate protection. This is the part of SDGs connection, and we have 18% of the funded scholars have been involved in climate protection issues and topics. Within these corporations, Professor Ribbe just referred to the fact that yeah, these kinds of master studies programs and PhDs, they do not only the Global South. And this is not only that funded people profit from these curricula, profit from these teaching processes, but also all students from partner universities. So we see here a big number of courses offered in master and PhD. I just thought also of bringing some actual programs, just to refer to the Exceed program, in which most of the involved institutions in the organization of this water security conference are. and also the ABCD. It has come to be clear here what kind of great networks they have in different projects, but also EPOS, which is also important for individually funded persons and PhD and master students. And as promised, these are actual, up-to-date calls for application. The first one is foreign guest lectures. This is a kind of a funding program in which German universities, in cooperation with their partner universities abroad, can apply to bring lecturers to work on teaching issues. I'm done. So just some other programs, higher education and cooperation with some maybe interesting regions. Just have a look at that. You still have time to make an application in cooperation with your German partner universities, or if you are German universities, in cooperation with your partners. But also the last one is Leonhard Euler program. It is a kind of a funding for surplus for like on-site scholarships for thesis. This is also a higher education cooperation project. Very last slide from my side. Sorry, there was last one. I just wanted, yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Sherif. And before we come to the part 2, I would like to, can you get the other slides? I would like to introduce to you my colleague, Masa Matla, and she is, oh sorry. You have to blame me. And I would like to welcome also Professor Stamm. He will report about the ABCD Center, Water Security and Climate Change, Adaptation, Understanding the Complexity of a Global Challenge. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Haarstreck, for... can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Haarstreck, for kind introduction. I have a few minutes now to present you the idea of ABCD. So ABCD is a short abbreviation naming the 4 cities who are linked here in this joint program or project. It's the RWTH Aachen, it's AIT in Bangkok, it's IIT Madras in Chennai, India, and it's from Dresden, Technical University of Dresden, and United Nations University, the Institute Unu Flores. So the name of the center is Global Water and Climate Adaptation Center, but it's easier to remember ABCD. First, I would like to start with the success story, because we just started last year. That means the preparation phase of ABCD was in the year 2020, where we have COVID situation, the pandemic situation, no traveling, nothing. So what did we do? We used digital tools for linking the experts in the 4 locations. And the start of ABCD was then in May last year, in 21, and even this without traveling. And we have every week a digital steering committee meeting, and now it's all 2 weeks. It was a lot of discussion necessary for the preparation and for the implementation of such a center, and everything works digital. But we felt also we are on a limit, we feel the limit, we need personal interaction. And so I fully underline what Mrs. Daniela said. She said that personal interaction is not replaceable. CD, does it go forward? Which one? Long? Down? Okay. So the topic is global water and climate adaptation, and here you see the partners. It's clear. Mitigation addresses the gas phase, adaptation addresses the water phase, and this is what we take care for. So what is the idea? What is our vision? So the project can be explained or bases on 3 pillars. It's a teaching pillar, a research pillar, and a transfer pillar. So what means teaching and what is special? First is we want to install a new joint master program. Why new? And how can we do it? We are talking about 2 continents, 3 countries, 4 different locations. And students should live and learn at these 4 locations. That means we have to link them by digital tools. There is a need for digitalization. I always say digitalization is a tool, it's not the goal. We have to use it and we will use it. And it cannot replace personal interaction. That means we start and we do these, the curriculum, we do it in a digital way, and the students are sitting on 4 places and learning together. And there is at least 1 mobility move, because we want this interaction. We are human beings, so we want that 1 mobility move. So we install this new master program, and it's called Water Security and Global Change. That means it's not only from the engineering perspective, it's also linked to social science, and this is very important. The other point is we integrate existing programs. There are existing programs because it's difficult, to be honest. Now we are on the implementation stage, and I can more explain about difficulties at the moment. With respect to the joint master program, we have administrational difficulties. There is no worldwide or global accreditation frame. We have a European accreditation frame. We have Indian and so on, but not a global. And so there are a lot of discussions, what can be accepted, what can be not accepted. It's at least as difficult as doing research. So, and then we are here in India, in Thailand, and in Germany, and all this negotiated how we can do this joint master program. It's not that easy, it's really a challenge. We integrate existing programs. Maybe yesterday you heard about CIPSEM, Center for Interdisciplinary Postgraduate Studies on Environmental CD. The second point is doing research. I will show you 1 more slide, the second pillar. And the third pillar is transfer, the third mission. We want to make output to outcome and impact. And this is very important, and therefore we are not only incorporating the innovation center of these universities which are existing at all the sustainable development goals. So I don't want to talk too long, but what you see here, you see a meeting of the core team and the steering committee. And so yes, we need digitalization.
And he will join us in this session. And as I wanted to do earlier, before I forgot Professor Jungstam, I would like to introduce my colleague Masa Motla. She will co-manage, co-moderate, it's one of the moderator, this session, this part 2, and she has a special announcement how we can integrate the audience.
Hello everyone. I think you see the QR codes distributed on the tables. After the last short presentation that we have, we are going to the question-answer part of the panel, and we would like to have more interaction with the people in the room. And if you are scanning the code by your smartphones, and we would like to have more comments from your side, any question, any insight from your side, from your institution, region, experience that you could share, or any question that you have to our panelists or in general about the subject of the session. Then we have, because of the limited time, then in that case we have more time to receive more comments, more questions, and more insights from your side. Then we can also share it with our panelists. If we have time to answer those questions, you can directly point to any panelist sitting here, then they will answer. They can read the questions over here. They can also enter to the platform themselves if they want to make any comment from any question directly. And yeah, let's see how it works. We are talking about digitalization. So this is a tool that we are using for more interaction. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Martha, and you're invited to interact with us very intensively. So let me come to this part 2 and give some incentives. If you can give me the next slides, please. Yes. What we did, or what I did, actually also in communication with Lars, we looked at academia. First we had higher education institutions 4.0, and then we thought would be a good idea also to adapt this, or to start from that point that we have, or we are facing changes in industries. You see, it starts with the Industrial Revolution in the 19th centuries, 18th centuries at the end, with Industry 1.0. And now we are in a situation where we speak about, or where the discussion is around Industry 4.0, and now we are entering into Industry 5.0. And this is our link now to think about Academia 5.0. So what happens? We have discussed the whole last days about climate change and adaptation strategies and how to tackle all these problems, and what are the impacts in industry, in society, and also what are the impacts in academia. So the question is, what is the future of higher education institutions as far as we have to make changes how the education of students in the future will look like? When you look to Industry 5.0, just to give you 4 points, what is the meaning, what is behind, what do we understand about Industry 5.0? Of course, what we are seeing already is that we have these digitalization processes in all areas of industry. What we are now seeing is that more and more artificial intelligence is entering these areas. We have a movement from centralization to decentralization. Intelligent products, tailored products for consumers in the future are thought. We have a shared economy, social entrepreneurship is also mentioned here, following of course the SDGs. Fusion and connection of the world of production, network connectivity, and the creation of an intelligent industry, connection with a dynamic interaction, and the focus of SDGs as well. So you see, when we speak about network connectivity, we have already heard from the presenters that of course we have digitalization in the area of working together and in the connection of higher education institutions worldwide. But of course the in-person meetings are anyway important. But more and more we're seeing this kind of networking connectivity where digitalization will also play a role. Now I would like to switch from this view when we see this row from 1.0 to 5.0. What about Academia 5.0? And let me then speak or hear the words from Andreas Schleicher. He is director of the OECD Directorate for Education and Skills. And he said, education is no longer just about teaching students, but rather about providing them with a reliable compass and the navigational tools to find their own way in an increasingly volatile and uncertain world. So what does it mean? The balanced scope of education would be more in breadth and depth. And what is also mentioned, this is one of some citing of the director of the OECD. He also mentioned that in future education will be more non-linear, a dynamic process. Flexible curricula are needed, and the focus on personalized learning and physical education is in discussion. To answer the question, what is the picture, what is the education of, for example, a new engineer in the future to tackle all the diverse and complex problems in the future? where we are speaking about these transformation processes, where we have an impact in the industry, society, but also, and you mentioned this, Lars, education, higher education institutions have also the task to go in this area where we have this third mission or fourth mission, meanwhile. So, these are a bit of my incentives in order to enter into the discussion, and the motto of our, no, please back again. The motto of the session is to thematize the new requirements for the education and students and professionals in the context of demographic, climate and digital changes. Maybe also associated with some risk. When we talk about changes and impacts, we also have to talk about risk. But we will not dive into that today, because this is another part where we have to talk about potential risks. Okay, next slide now. And these are some impulse sentences just for the entrance of the following discussion. And I would like to mention this. We are seeing that the new complex social constellation that will change us in the future is the overlapping of three global acting waves of transformation. That is globalization, digitalization, and sustainabilization. I put this in brackets. You will not find this word in English, but it's dealing with sustainability as an attempt to mitigate drastic climate change and avert impeding environmental collapses. The desired transformation to sustainable, climate-neutral societies and economy is a conflict-laden process. There we have the risk, but that encompasses technological innovation, serious changes in ecosystem and social modernization processes. And here the university worldwide shall operate as a knowledge multipliers and enables personalized capacity development, train active citizens, equip students with the skills and competencies to build bridges. These are a little bit the leading impulses I would like to pass to you. And in order to enter into the question and answer parts, we have prepared some answers and questions here. No, there. And I would like to start with Professor Dieter Trau from University AIT in Bangkok. And I would like to ask you, to what extent or how far AIT is prepared for the future? What kind of action did you already take in order to do this transfer in this new world of education and reacting of all the problems that we are seeing now? Please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so let me start a little bit broader. You know, do we still need the universities in the future, and how the Academia 5.0 university will look like, correct? That's a big question we are asking ourselves. And universities face many challenges. I mean, climate change, communities are threatened, immigration is forced, then also relevance. Actually, in some fields, IT and computer science, we see that students can find very good jobs without getting a degree. So we see actually it's more, the knowledge is more important than the degree. So that's a relevance as a challenge. Another challenge, of course, was a recent COVID pandemic. And on this one, let me give you some examples what we did in AIT. In fact, the COVID pandemic somehow helped to move us more towards Academia 5.0. And you know, all these challenges, important is to really stay in control and adapt to them. And for AIT, the first thing we did was to have two principles. The first principle, education should not be delayed, and quality should not be compromised. And you know, then we are proud to say that we never, you know, other universities, maybe they thought, okay, let's wait for a week, maybe everything is better, hopefully. hope dies last, correct? So that's not the way to do it. I think to adapt quickly, that's what we actually did. And I'm proud to say that we never actually delayed the semester, or we never delayed the class by changing the way, that is one of the important pillars, how the student participate in the learning process. This is of course what we talked already, digitalization, and we introduced what we call the hybrid mode of instruction, where we outfitted classrooms with modern means, cameras and so on, and students on our AIT campus and students abroad, they actually participated in the same class. This also relates to one of the slides we saw before, nobody left behind. I call it inclusive. We want to build an inclusive way in AIT where everybody can participate in the teaching process. So that is one pillar, participate. And the second one is networking. And we also saw this, and you have built some great networks. Networking is nothing really new, but what is new at AIT is that it's now part of the curriculum. And networking in terms of networking with other universities, which is exchange, networking with industry, which is internship, and also exchange with other, international organization. So this is part, 4 credits now, of the curriculum. And another part of networking is dual degrees. We also have now many dual degrees where students stay 1 year in AIT and another year in our global partnered universities. Then the third pillar is content. And also here, I think in the future, the classical program and so on may be less. What we have introduced is what we call the open master. And I think there was somebody talked about this before. We created the slogan for the open master: design your own curriculum, design your own future. So all these 3 things, like networking, how to participate in the learning process, and the content, I think they are undergoing changes, and that's in particular important for AIT. For information, we are postgraduate university only. We only have master and PhDs. I think there might be slight differences between postgraduate and undergraduate, because our students, they might have many responsibilities already. They have a family, they may build their first house, they might need to take care of their parents. So what I see as the Academia 5.0 is a much, much higher level on flexibility. And that flexibility is on the field of, from where the student participate in the learning process. Then what is the content? What can the student learn? How they can design their own, their own content, their own curriculum, managing the finances and the cash flow and the time, the length of studies happening now as we speak.
Thank you very much, Professor Trau. And as far as I understood, you mentioned that you have also a little bit changed the curricula and the content. How you want to transfer knowledge to the students, new knowledge, and how they take it, and in so far that they can have a hand on the creation of their own curricula. So that is what I mentioned goes into the direction of a non-linear, more flexible education. Yeah, and the end would be: do we become more experts then, who are specialized in a very narrow area, which can have a risk? Some people would say, okay, only having experts, and they don't know what is the right side and the left-hand side. Is this a risk?
I think the classical programs, they have more the risk to create expert in a very narrow field. In the classical programs, we have our postgraduate programs. Students have a limit what they can take outside of the program. So in the open master concept, this is reversed. there is a limit how many courses or so you can take in the same program. So it's actually the opposite. So I think the open master concept will create more broad but still experts in one particular domain. I always give the example, if a student still want to do hardcore engineering, they can do it in my school. But if they want to build, maybe they want to build in the future their own company, they want to build a sustainable business, they can take courses from our other school, CERT, which is in sustainability, climate change, environment. And if they want to build a business that's successful, they can take courses from our school, SOM, School of Management. So they will be more broad, but of course, they still need to be an expert in one domain.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this is an important point. Any comments to that, to this expert question from the panelists? Marcus. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you for the possibility to answer directly. First of all, I would like to say Academia 5.0 sounds good, but it's not reality.
Not
so
yet.
reality is maybe Academia 3.0, yeah, or for good universities 4.0, so
yes, I know that was kind of
yeah. But I just want to say, because I just to make clear it's a wide vision, and there are some very good and financial strong universities maybe,
yes.
But we talk about a vision. I want to say, so I also ask myself, what should we give the students on hand? We talk about competences, not about knowledges. When knowledge is this, what you can Google, and this is what we hear from the students. Why should I learn this? I can Google this. Yeah? So we have to give them competences. This is a slightly but very important difference. And the other point is, you stimulated me when you said the students can create the curriculum, which is very, very good. On the other side, I see the need for quality assurance. Yeah. That means when the students are ready with or finalize their examination, it must be clear that they really have substantially competences, and not we say so very thin study. Yeah? This is for me a very, very important point. Quality insurance. Assurance, yeah, competences and quality assurance, and this cannot be given in 2 or 3 years. That means we have the need for, as you said, lifelong learning, and I would say in future we have the need for a second study. Maybe this nobody believes it, but when you see Industry 1.0, the step from Industry 1.0 to 2.0 was longer than from 2.0 to 3.0,
exactly.
Was longer than from 3.0 to 4.0. Maybe in 2 years or in a few years we talk about Industry 6 or 7.0. It's incredibly accelerating. And so the question is really very good. What should we teach them? And how long does the study is enough for their work? Let me say what they have to work. Yeah? So I think lifelong learning and a totally different new way of thinking, much more intensive than we did it in the past. We did it also in the past. And I promise second study. It will come.
Marcus, please. Yeah. Transfer of knowledge. That's a question. How to build competences. Marcus.
Yeah, exactly. It was just mentioned. Many of the keywords I noted down. First of all, I want to apologize for further disbalancing here the gender aspect on the stage. But exactly. Also from the point of view we received in Hohenheim University with our graduate schools and in our master programs, we are very much oriented into the North-South exchange, and we can only also advocate for what was just mentioned, that we need in-depth expert knowledge, because that's the basis, that's the tool you develop to contribute for interdisciplinary discussions, and these discussions will then further increase the quality, and the conclusions coming are then based on fundamental knowledge which was created during study programs. I think this is very, very important, and we need the tools to enable this exchange, and that's something what we are doing here, and that's something where also DAAD comes into play, enabling this exchange of knowledge with several tools, be it master exchange programs, be it PhD, also postdoc exchange, and that comes to the lifelong learning aspect, which I also find quite important. Also to mention that we have already so many alumni leaving our institutions, and sometimes it's so difficult to stay in touch. But these people have applied the knowledge we were giving them at their hands, and we need a feedback. We need a feedback. Was that successful? What is your experience? And they, on the other hand, they need an update of the current academic discussion. So this vice versa exchange, that would be very important.
So that would give a boost to these alumni. Processes,
give them the booster, but also get the feedback from them.
Of course.
Yeah, that would be a very nice aspect.
We have already questions from the audience and to the panelists. The one is, where do you see the main...
Since the question is not directed to any of you, particularly, you can, I'm just reading out loud the question, then see if it is relevant to any of you that you want to answer. So the first one is relating to the administrative challenges of the implementation of the Academia 5.0 in your institutions. So how do you think dealing with that challenges can be planned? So if you have any comment on that.
The question is, challenges in implementing this, let's say Academia 4.5, that's more or less a theoretical discussion, but we talk about the way, what we have to do in order to cope with these problems in the future. At your institutions, how they are tackled already. Do you have any comments on that, panel? Yeah.
So it is basically about the challenge for the change inside an institute from the administrative perspective.
So to be honest, I'm not very clear for me what is, so when you define Academia 5.0 and link it with artificial intelligence, that is now difficult. What is the administrational problem with implementing this? What I can say is all what the progress we do in offering digital tools is very fast. And we struggle with financial issues. It's cost intensive. That is what I try to say. A lot of universities are really living on 3.0. So I'm very happy that for our program, ABCD program, there is some funding from that, even for digital tools, which is not the rule. But we need it especially, and we don't talk about monitor and some Zoom link or a Microsoft Team link. We talk about VR and augmented reality for really different kind of active learning classroom. And so maybe also due to the pandemic situation, DAAD was or gave us the money for this. We are far, or the majority of universities are far away from this point that we have really very good active learning classrooms, for example. There is need for more financial support.
Yeah, but the idea was not to speak about what the current situation is. So we want to look a little bit further. What does it mean when we want to make a change?
Yeah,
there was from Björn. You wanted to give some. Because you had the mic in your hand.
I was just holding it, so to hand it over to if one needs it. No, but I mean, like to... actually, the question is also about our administrative challenges. No, it's not only about financial challenges. I think it's an interesting one because especially working with different partners in different regions, you have of course a completely different type of administration in place, and this is also something where we also need exchange, not only on the scientific level, but also on the administrative level. And this is luckily something which is possible in the EXCEED program. I think it's also not very common to have this kind of exchange. And by bringing together different administrative stuff is also kind of a first step to implement this a bit on a broader perspective. Yeah, I think this is really relatively new way. At least it's not common in our institutions. And of course, there are different legal aspects, different legal frameworks in different countries. These are all things which is difficult to align along different regions.
Sharif?
Yes, a very short reflection from my side. I would pose the question actually in a more abstract way. I wouldn't maybe very that strict to whether it's artificial intelligence or digitalization issues or tailor-made products for the future. I would say that we have global challenges that take place, that we have to face, and we have changes also in the industry, and the changes are of the local needs of communities. And the universities, as you said, it's not a reality, not at the moment that the universities meet these needs of the challenges to be faced. This is what we try to, or should do actually at the universities, to kind of to develop, to further develop this kind of interaction in bringing the three important aspects of a role of a university at all: teaching, research, and transfer. And for the transfer, we should talk about what kind of transfer should take place. A transfer of through teaching actually and research. A transfer from both sides, to the university and to the communities and the societies. And they recognize this actually, and digitalization issue has been also a very important aspect of the EXCEED program and of other programs where we say digitalization even before the pandemic took place was very important. It was a very important part of the objectives also. So we tackle these problems, we try to promote these transfer of knowledge. When we say universities, when they get funding, they should also cooperate not only with universities, but also with extramural institutions, with the private sector, with civil society, NGOs, and so on and so forth, because we need the practice-oriented teaching, and we also need the research that depend on the needs of the societies.
Lars?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I fully agree to Professor Stamm. No, if we should answer these questions, we have to define it. Just to remind us, Industry 5.0 was a reaction to Industry 4.0, which proclaimed digitization, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things as the future and the way to go. And then 5.0 was a reaction to that, saying, no, we have to put the human into the center, not a world. We don't want to imagine a world that is governed by machines and human-machine interfaces. That's 5.0. So that is, of course, it is an evolution going to more technification, to more digitization. And if we put it in analogy to the universities, there's a similar trend. And I also agree that we are not at 4.0 at most universities, but we can perhaps consider what we want to do. That means we have to discuss the role of universities, and that each university has to define on its own. Some universities may say, I want to be very good in basic research. Others have even a topic or a theme as a main orientations. Others are saying we are more applied. We want to bring basic knowledge, which we don't create ourselves, but we have it from the body of knowledge and share it with the society. No? And perhaps with specific parts, again, with specific topics. Each university has to make a decision on that. But important, I think, is that if it is about the topics we address here, that means we want to make a change, we want to create an impulse for development, that has huge implications also on the design. And again, I completely agree. We talk about competencies. No? Competencies is the connection of knowledge, of skills, and attitudes and values. And that is not to forget, because attitudes and values, this is then what we let's say, share with the students, what we develop together with the students. It's about how we imagine the society of the future. How are we also interacting with the society in a way that we help the society to develop. And if you take it like that, and I really recommend the OECD competence framework to look at it, it's really well done. If we want to do it, that means also the education should change, because if you want to make a change of the systems, we have the first keynote, the second keynote, we had many interesting discussions on that. We talk about complex systems. Complexity means you have to understand the whole thing. That doesn't mean you have to do the whole thing, but you have to find your part in it. And then also we need to change the way of teaching. I think then we need to bring reality into the classroom. We have to bring the classroom into reality, actually. We need to work on projects on the ground together with the actors, because otherwise you will not understand it. So this is our approach, and I think we have many partners worldwide following it, that they are working in this, let's say, in the reality, and our students from the first semester on work in projects. That means we send them into the communities, we send them to study it and to analyze it. Other faculties in our university, for example, let's say mechanical engineering, they now have a program called Product and Context. So from the very beginning, students learn something about products, but about machines, about any kind of devices. It's engineering, but they look at it in the context. They study it in the context, they design it in the context, and whatever you need in basic science and mathematics or whatever, you do according to that. Or we have another one called Code and Context. This is computer science or informatics, but it's really starting with a problem with the demands of society. That means the students are from the very beginning immersed in real life problems, and they become problem solvers. That's important. It's not like teaching them first, you first have to know the basic of thermodynamics, mathematics, and this is the curriculum, and at the end perhaps you can solve problems. No? So that is, of course, quality assurance is important. That is, there are many problems to it, but the last point is just, okay, now we have here, this conference is hybrid. Also our classes are now hybrid after COVID. There are hiccups, there are problems. We have still to improve a lot, and our university doesn't have the technology that we find here in this nice hotel. No? But that's the way it will be. In a few years, it will be normal to just connect at any point with anyone in the world, and this comes to the networking. I think this is the extramural. We have to make, let's say, or we have to keep universities, but at the same time, with those who are working on similar topics and taking advantage of the international exchange, we have to build networks and then have networking education, networking research. Anyway, research is international, no? But using the international knowledge exchange, the body of knowledge, to solve local problems and also to teach students in local universities. No? So that is for me 5.0, but it may be a different definition, that we use technology advancements, but we are putting the human, that means the society, in the center. That is important. And the university will follow. If the university decides, then of course they support you.
Yes, please.
Very short addition. I want to grab it because Mr. Ribbe, excellent, fully support. And it was here on my paper, human-centered approach. And then Mr. Trau said not only human-centered, also humanity-centered. Yes, this exactly is a point. By the way, the students are by the way, the students are human beings. And so in former times, the world was slow. Now it's incredibly fast, and we see that a lot of students have big psychological stress, and using all these tools and flexibility and digitalization doesn't make it easier. And we have to take into account the students has really stress today, And so we always have to be aware that we are human and humanity-centered in our way of learning. Maybe you are interested in looking in the internet, you find CETI, C-E-T-I, a Center for Tactile Internet. It's an excellent cluster at the TU Dresden. And it's amazing how digitalization and human beings are melting. So this is not what we are talking about here. We talk about human-centered and humanity-centered learning in a digital world. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Even though we received some interesting questions, but because of the time, I don't think we can reflect on all of them. Still, I would love to ask if you have answered to those questions, still you can share. You can't wait just for our panelists to answer. Still you have any insight to those, please share with us. Just for connecting to what you said about the speed of the digitalization, there is an interesting question about job market and how are you incorporating the demand of job market with the institutions that you're working at and the plans that you are actually having. So how do you consider connection between that, especially when we talk about applied science and how in that relationship works between these two?
Who wants to answer? Very briefly.
Like a very brief answer is, I mean, also listening to the partners, no? I mean, so that's what we are doing. I mean, we are cooperating with our partners and listening for the local demands, rather than planning it on a centric approach, looking from German perspective, trying to overrule what is really missing in the local demand. Yeah. And this is something, I mean, this is not 5.0, this is for sure stuck already in 3.0, but something which is still happening. So it's important to take this into account.
Yeah, what is interesting is that it depends on the country where we talk about. So the need for employees is very high. And today we see in Germany, but not only in Germany, it's also the same in India, that they grab the students from the university because they need them.
Brain drain.
And this is some kind of brain drain, yeah. And it hinders, let me say, the long-term perspective, yeah, for the community when the students are not in a situation that they can study till the end. It's not because they would be not good enough, but the pressure from industry and administration and so on is so big that they grab them from the university. This is an interesting development.
Last word.
Competence-based education is actually related to the design of courses after a dialogue with the future employers. So that is, and what are the students when they graduate do, and what kind of competencies do they need? So that should be the design of any program. No? Of course, we often make the mistake that the professors, and sometimes professors that were educated 30 years ago and sometimes are not so flexible, they say, I know exactly what is necessary, it's this and this and this. That's how they used to learn it. No? And that is deadly, no? Because that is not providing the competency society. It's about how do we design curricula, and of course also maintaining flexibility. That is very important. You know? Also in our own brains, no? The old guys, let's say, we have to be flexible, and we have to also get rid of some of our perhaps old habits, no? And that is important.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Also, thank you very much to the panelists. And I'm really happy. Actually, when I thought about this and I put this Academia 5.0 on the paper, then I thought, okay, could be a hard discussion on that, how to understand this. And exactly is that what this discussion has achieved, that we have developed an idea about what is necessary in the future, what education means in the future. And I think the take-home message in this case is that we have to build competencies and that we have to cooperate within these networks. And these are not digital somehow theoretical networks where robots will interact, individuals will interact with these special competencies in order to discuss the future problems and to cope with the future problems. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much again to the panelists for this very fruitful and lively discussion. And to all of you also sending the questions. Thank you very much for your participation. Have a nice day.